All right. Well, let's get started if we can. I know there's still a little bit of things happening here in the room, but I want to welcome everyone to the 36th KBMP meeting, going all the way back to 2008. So it's been a long journey. Anyone here, raise your hand, who was at the first KBMP meeting? All right. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Was that the Best Western Miners Inn room? Was that the one? Yeah. Well, it's been a journey and we've come a long way. My name is Randy Turner. I'm an environmental scientist at the San Francisco Estuary Institute. And since 2014, I've been the coordinator for KBMP. So I was around at the very beginning and then left for grad school and came back to work this gig. So it's been a great adventure. I feel like, over the years, it's more of a family than a group of colleagues, and it just has been a pretty special group to be a part of. So, we're a little informal here, so feel free to get up and help yourself to things in the back. Restrooms are just through either the doors, kind of that direction. If you do want to get a sandwich today and stick around and hang out and talk to your colleagues, go ahead and place your order for a sandwich now, and then we'll run that up to Rayleigh's and get a good little deli sandwich for you delivered here at lunch. So anyway, well, welcome to the meeting. We've got a lot on our plate today, so I'll just get started talking through a little bit of the basics, talk about a little what we're working on, and then talk about, well, I'm going to let the folks who are presenting today kind of cover what they're focusing on. But like I said, we've been around since 2008. We are strictly kind of a volunteer organization in a sense. The stakeholders that are organizational members of KBMP, some of them serve on our steering committee and help guide our activities and projects and kind of our direction. In general, we are focused on water quality monitoring and helping try to coordinate efforts, work together, get better ways to share information and share data. And I think in a lot of ways we've been very successful with that. There are challenges, especially from a data sharing perspective, but we're working through it with the resources we have. So we have a website that is pretty extensive. So a lot of great information there, and it's beyond just water quality information. So, if you haven't really checked that out, there's a huge amount of resources there. If you're not sure if something's there, feel free to reach out to me. I'll help either tell you where it is on the website or find it somewhere else for you and maybe even put it on the page once I learn about it. So we really want to be interactive and, just like I said, just call to say hello and tell me what you're doing, and happy to share your information too. So, this is one of our 2 meetings a year, usually in the spring and fall, funding dependent, of course. We did have a break in funding after our fall meeting, so I was doing some other things for the first 3 months of the year, but back in business and, trying to hit the ground running. So I want to thank staff and everyone, financial supporters from the Katina Foundation, who have provided us some grant funding for running KBMP for the next year. So really can't say enough appreciation about that. That's why we're here. So thank you, Katina Foundation. Just kind of touching base a little bit on where we've been. We've done, quite a few projects in the last few years, including a status and trends report for water quality. We've repeated our monitoring location metadata survey of members, which is a really important data set that feeds into a lot of other things. We formed and worked with the technical advisory committee to look at what are the priority water quality parameters that we need for monitoring. What is just the highest priority, and in some cases secondary priorities. And we looked at that across the entire Klamath Basin and then within each sub-basin. And then fed a lot of that information into a water quality monitoring plan that we put out at the end of last year. So We've talked about most of those things in previous KBMP presentations, so always get more details about those by going back to the website, hint, hint, and finding that information. We don't have any big reports we're working on this year as part of our deliverables, but we do have, how do I get this just to stop showing up? We do have, just a big effort to really expand our data and information sharing. And there's a lot of different ways we're trying to do that. And so I just want to cover a few of those here, and it's a good little, preview of a few of our major pages on the website. I mentioned the monitoring location metadata, and I won't go into the details here, but again, there's a tremendous amount of monitoring that's going on here in the basin. I don't want to say it's ridiculous, but it's a huge amount of monitoring that's, goes beyond just water quality, of course. But we try to capture all that metadata from the partners. It's of course not a complete perfect list, but it's what we, what folks voluntarily provide. And we take that and put that into an interactive map. And then there's a companion file with the same data that feeds the map that is an Excel file that you can download right off the same web page here and use that. It's a great complement to the map. And you can go in and sort and filter on, the water body you're interested in, or, the organization, or what parameter you're interested in, or any and all of those things. So it's really a powerful spreadsheet to help summarize that monitoring effort that's going on. And it's not just for the 2024 effort. We've combined 4 previous surveys of that also. So it's a pretty powerful amount of data. If we didn't get your responses to that survey for 2024, we do want to try to push through one batch of updates. So if you didn't share your monitoring metadata, or information's changed, like new contact or someone like that, now would be a great time to get in touch with us so we can feed that in and make this an even better, more relevant data set. When we look at, that metadata, it's kind of the who, what, where, when, how frequently, questions. And when we kind of look at it in a different way, we can summarize it by, different organizations who are collecting data, and then the general data categories that are being collected. So, some groups are incredibly busy out in the field, and just have to give so much credit for them and all their crew members who are out collecting this important data. So we've kind of recently created this table just as a way to summarize, okay, who's doing what and where. And then we take, some of that information, and we want to share it on our page that's links to data's reports and other information. So we're working on some updates to kind of try to standardize this a little bit, but we go through each organization and try to share a link to their website. If they have annual reports that they can put out, we'll host those here. Links to other resources they may have, and then data is the more challenging one. And so, where we can share data directly, we're happy to do that. We can host data sets. We can link to data somewhere else. So there's a lot of ways that we want to work with people on that. We want to work with the steering committee to make sure that this particular kind of format is the best approach. And then with each organization, is everything accurate? Is this how you want it to be shared? Is it appropriate? So there's just a lot of variation that we can do in that. So, you can download PDF reports. In terms of water quality data that's in a central database, such as the water quality portal. We have links where you can go straight to the water quality portal and adjust the query to filter. I want only certain years, or I want to exclude groundwater data or something like that. But if you want like the full data sets, we have links to just go ahead and download all the sample results for that organization that are in WQX, or directly download an Excel file of all the project information, or the site information, or the organization information. So, because often those files will help you filter out, oh, okay, yeah, there is groundwater data in here, so I'll go back to the query and adjust it. So I'm only getting the data I want. And then, the ability to put in and request data, send an email to the staff to request whatever data you're looking for that may not be available there. So just trying to provide options that work. and be able to kind of make it more of a one-click to get to what you want. For a lot of white papers and published articles, they don't really maybe fit within that organization arrangement that we just showed. And so we have, we've added about 50 documents in the last few months. There's over 500 total right now, and I think there's a lot more that we could kind of add if we searched. But in many ways, we're not the only game in town. There's a lot of other organizations that have either have or putting together document libraries also. So, rather than me just going and copying what everyone else has, just having links to go to these document libraries as well. So, I know the IFRMP library is very large also. So, just being able to, to direct people to the right place is sometimes a lot easier than trying to add a lot to ours. We're at the KBMP meetings. This might be the most highly visible part of KBMP, and it's really a pretty huge part of who we are. There's been so many different presentations over the years, and outside of scenarios where someone is presenting preliminary data that's not quite ready to put out there as a PDF of your slides or as a recording, and for the most part, we're able to have those resources available. So you can go to our website and get the slides from a previous talk, or at least since 2022, go watch the recording of a particular presentation. So, we really feel that's important. And, through the years and through the value of having webinars, we really have seen just great attendance and great participation from so many different organizations over the years. It's really increased. And it's just kind of a testament to kind of everything going on in the Klamath. So, on that meetings page that we have on the KBMP website, you can go and just scroll down and keep scrolling down to previous meetings to find the presentation, or you can download an Excel spreadsheet that has everything summarized. And so you can use the wonders of Excel to search and filter and sort for the keyword you're looking for, or things like that. So, again, trying to make it easier to find that resource by having these simple little summaries. And so that's really, like I said, really important. And if a group has, something that's not their presentation slides or, the recording to share, say they have, oh, here's our project website, or here's the story map we produced, things like that. We're happy to share that information as well and really, help tell your story. So, when I talked about the document library, we're not the only game in town. It's kind of the same thing for, presentations and conferences like this. We really, I think, appreciate what we're able to do here, but there's just so many more things going on. And so I'm building kind of a similar list to our presentation spreadsheet that's going to capture other meetings and other, Klamath relevant presentations. So I'm still working on this. I've got, 300 plus talks already entered into a separate spreadsheet that I'll combine with KBMPs at some point. And, some of them are, like the SRF is pretty daunting because it's been going on for so many years and so many concurrent sessions each year. And not everything's Klamath relevant. So I've got to sort through that. And, but there's just a lot of other groups out there where there's information sharing, and not all of them will have slides and recordings available, course, but at least you can know who's working on something and who to contact to find out more information. So, we're hoping that again just adds to this as being the place to go to find something, even if we're not necessarily housing it. You can get to where it is. So maybe we're the Google of Klamath in a sense. The world's advancing. We were at a fisheries meeting the last couple of days in Ashland, and a lot of talk about potential use for like AI to help with at weirs and screw traps to help look at the camera footage and sonar imagery to help identify fish and measure them and what species, etc., and just automate that painstaking process to go through all that video and sonar footage. And so just technology is just advancing so much, and there's different ways to look at data. And I just want to commend the Creek Tribe for, their website for sharing all the continuous water quality data from the sondes and incorporating flow data from USGS gauges. and sharing data for other organizations as well that are running sondes and gauges in the Klamath. So it's definitely a great resource. And so if you weren't aware of that, it's pretty amazing. But we've also want to have tools on the KBMP website as well. For a long time, on kind of the left side of the website, we have included just a quick table for real-time flow data, and then links to those associated water quality sondes at that gauge station. And I think it's just nice to be able to have that quick snapshot of what's happening. But when you're looking at the website, it's kind of just a table on the side, and so it's fairly limited in what it covers. It's just 10 or so of so many countless stream gauges in the basin. So what we want to do is kind of build on that and have just a real-time data page where we can expand those flow stations and organize them by sub-basin, so you're not just going through some massive list and trying to find the ones that make it a little easier to find. And then we've talked about having real-time water quality on the site, and there are some challenges with that in some sense. But I know we have post dam removal now. We have we have fish going upstream, and we have the problems in Keno Reservoir with water quality that kind of coincide with adult migration. And so I'm hoping we're working with some IT folks at the San Francisco Estuary Institute to, how do we build the coding to query that data and have that displayed as like a real-time table, just to show what's dissolved oxygen doing now, what's water temperature, what's pH doing, just at those two stations, because those are kind of the only real-time window we have into what's going on in Keno. So I think that'll be really helpful for fisheries managers to know, like, as fish come over the Keno ladder and go through link, and as they work towards their own abilities to report that information out faster, this could be a very good complementary data set for them. Our plan right now is not to do this for all the stations in the Klamath. In a sense, that's what the Creek Tribe website does. So, but for now, hitting Keno, I think, would be a really useful addition to the site. That is not a slide that I was going to talk about. In terms of the agenda today, we've got some great talks lined up. Definitely some water quality talks, but some other ones relating to flow and restoration and groundwater and modeling. And I know I'm forgetting some things, but there's just there's a lot of great talks. And so much of what we're going to hear today does have this nexus back to water quality, which has a nexus to fisheries and so many other things. And so it's just really great to be able to be in this room and to share information with a broad group of scientists and other people working on the river, and just get a better perspective, understand what else is happening, what's the latest science and research, and hopefully this really adds value to what you're doing. So really appreciate that. And we often have a little program agenda item called the mini updates, and that's just going around the room, and like the project managers will give just a short summary of what's happening on their projects, new activities, they got new reports, they're new, that type of thing. Just keeping it short because somewhat limited time, and so that's really a machine gun of information also. But for folks who aren't presenting, it's a great way to get your some basic information and updates out there. So on the back of your agenda, I believe we have the meeting guidelines. So think of it as the kindergarten rules in a sense. Pretty simple. Be nice to others. Be respectful, and I think everything will work out just fine. So, for those on the webinar, we've all learned over the last few years, try to stay muted. You can raise your hand or put a question into the chat. And then by early next week, I'll get PDFs posted, and then the recordings take a little longer to get processed, but we'll get those up again where there's not preliminary data involved, and we respectfully aren't sharing that. So, but we'll get that information uploaded fairly soon. So, any questions? All right. And again, restrooms in the back corner there. Help yourself in the kitchen. And thanks all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come to KBMP.